1948 is quite a year. Things are happening around here. I got to tell you about that. First of all, we had a war baby, a ferrosilicon plant at Rock Island, World War II, that shut down right after World War II, and we have been fighting Congress and the War Assets Administration to reopen that project, and by golly, it finally is happening. We put a committee together called the Strategic Industries Board. We got people like Ed Gensinger and Mark Pullman, Chet Kim was running the chamber, and we talked to the congressmen and senators. Of course, Walt Horan was our man back in the House of Representatives. And this year, we won the battle, and the Keokuk Electro Metal Companies from Keokuk, Iowa, bought that plant and are reopening it with 200 people. That's a lot of jobs in little old Wenatchee. We're glad to see that happen. Well, of course, over in the Columbia Basin, Congress has been putting out millions of dollars a year to build the irrigation works. Boy, you should see the size of those canals. Man, oh man. There's going to be water in just a few years. The first water will come to the Quincy area. But you'd be amazed at the size and the work that's going on in the Columbia Basin today. And people are looking at the Columbia Basin as a source of new jobs and new farms that will rekindle the whole agricultural part of the whole state of Washington. You'll see it happen, and it won't be many years from now. Well, things are happening here in good old Chelan County in other ways too. You realize this is the year that Chelan County PUD finally bought their own system. You know, there's several ways to acquire a utility system. The initiative, the Grange Initiative of 1930 authorized PUDs to be formed. And a lot of them were formed in the 30s. But most of them didn't get activated because of the difficulty in getting funding. Well, we used a financier from New York City by the name of Guy Myers to negotiate the value of the Puget Sound Power and Light properties, rather than going the route of some of the utility districts of condemnation procedures, which is very costly, long distance, great for the lawyers, but not so good for the people. So Myers has negotiated the sale of Puget properties right here for $8.1 million. And this year, Chelan PUD is operating here in this part of the state. Now, not all of the county. Up north, Washington Water Power owns Chelan Dam and Chelan Distribution Area and Chelan and Manson. They don't want the deal, apparently. Puget is under a lot of financial pressure because of the competition with City Light of Seattle. So they were willing to deal here, but Water Power said no. So Chelan PUD has filed a condemnation suit against the Chelan Dam and Chelan Distribution Area. We don't know how that's going to come out, but at least that has started. But at least we know that we're going to own our own distribution system here. We don't own any hydroelectric facilities. We got, you know, Puget Power built Rock Island Dam back in 29 to 31. But all that power primarily goes to the coast. But one day maybe, we'll own something of our own. Well, things are happening otherwise too. There are big things happening in the federal system. We're against big money. You know, there's a bunch of legislators, especially senators, that say there's no need for any more power. They told us that when Grand Coulee Dam was being built. Who's going to use the power? The jackrabbits? Well, you know what it's used for. It made World War II possible to raise shipyards and airplanes and Hanford. That's what World War II would mean to us. But now we're in a situation where we need power now. In 1948, we're getting brownouts. And we've got these people back there, they're a bunch of magpies, saying we don't need any more power. Well, the federal people, the Corps of Engineers and the Bureau of Reclamation are getting together and kind of planning where to go next. Bonneville was finished earlier than Grand Coulee. It was built like Coulee and started to make work for people in 1933. 2 years ago, the next Lower Columbia Dam was begun at Umatilla Rapids. It was named for Senator McNary of Oregon. McNary Dam is now under construction and should be finished by about 1953 or 54. But here is Foster Creek Dam sitting up here near Bridgeport. We had a little trouble with that name. It was called Foster Creek. And folks in Congress said, why do we need to spend millions of dollars to put a dam at Foster Creek? It's just a creek up there, isn't it? Well, of course, Foster Creek runs into the Columbia River at Bridgeport. And this year, Congress finally renamed it Chief Joseph Dam in honor of our great Indian chief. And that happened. But the next question that we're up against is competition. It's to see where the next dam will be built. There are lots of people that don't want any more federal dams in Congress, but things are happening here that are making it necessary. And we're looking at competition, for example, with the navigation people who want to put a dam, another dam in the first dam in the Snake River at Ice Harbor. So we're in competition with them for which is going to be built first by the Corps of Engineers. I think we got a pretty good chance of being first because, for one thing, Chief Joseph has the cheapest power of any dam in the whole system. Cheaper than Grand Coulee, Bonneville, McNary, or any of the others. It's got a high head, 165 feet. It's only height, it's half the height of Coulee. But it's got no fish problems, and it's got no reservoir problems. There aren't any towns, like the great reservoir behind Coulee Dam that drowned a dozen little towns. And so the cost of developing that power is going to be cheaper than any other comparable power in the whole Northwest. So we're hot and heavy to get that built this year. Well, along with what's happening there, of course, I was absent for the big event of the Northwest, the Great Flood of 1948. I went to Germany to see what was happening to Germany after World War II. In 1948, you know, the war wasn't over very long. Germany was still flat on its back. Any of the Germans you talked to, none of them admitted they ever supported the Nazis. but that's the way it was. But I tried to get into Berlin. You realize what's happening over there? The Germans have locked off access to Berlin by land. We're facing a situation in Germany that is very dangerous today. We've started an airlift in there to feed the people, but Russia is flexing its muscles, and we don't know whether we're going to be facing another conflict. I mean, this is a dangerous time in Germany today. I was glad to see it, but I'm scared to death about the future of what's going to happen up there. We'll be watching that very closely. But the fact of the Great Flood of '48 has awakened a lot of people to the fact that there's need for more power in this Northwest and need for more storage. And so they're looking at a variety of other things. And we're going to get a new storage at Hungry Horse. One of these days, we're going to have to start talking to Canada about getting some storage up in Canada, but it hasn't happened yet. But Chief Joseph is also important because there is, in this area, there is still undeveloped land. Have you ever heard of the Greater Wenatchee Project? Well, you probably haven't because it's never been built. There's something like 15 or 20,000 acres east of us. The Wenatchee Reclamation Ditch serves lowland lands like Baker Flat north of us and Majestic Flat south of us. But there's this whole great flat of East Wenatchee around the airport for miles and miles and miles that is part of the Greater Wenatchee Project that was organized as an irrigation district way back in the 1920s and is still looking for a way to get irrigation to it. We've got a need for making that possible. We think maybe if we get a dam at Chief Joseph, maybe we can find a way to get it. Because, let's face it, our fruit industry has also got potential irrigation as we go north. Up at Ray's Landing, there's a lot of undeveloped land. And Bridgeport Bar and the Brewster Flat, there's thousands of acres that could be developed yet, even though the Great Columbia Basin Commission is coming. And the Great Columbia Basin Project is coming along with a variety of mainly crops that are not competitive with us in the tree fruit area. So we're looking for things to happen from this. Well, 1948 is, of course, an election year, and I'm kind of worried about that. I was kind of hoping the Republicans would nominate somebody like Stasson from Minnesota or Warren from California, but they got that New York lawyer, Dewey, and I'm nervous about that because that bunch from New York, they're monopolists. They're a bunch of utility monopolists that are running the utilities of the United States to their own benefit. And I don't like it very much, and I'm afraid of Mr. Dewey. I'm a Republican, but I'm afraid of what's going to happen. But this is 1948. We'll have to see what happens. The election hasn't happened yet. We've had some other things happen, though. This spring, we had deer eating our orchards. We had, I don't even, maybe you remember the great jury trial. The Griffith family up at Ediac decided they didn't like all those deer in the orchards. They shot about a dozen of them. And the game department came down and arrested them. But Judge Sorensen said, well, we're going to make a show of this. and moved it to the Liberty Theater. 1,000 people showed up, and they exonerated the Griffiths, and they gave the part of a real bad name for not managing the deer properly. I think maybe in the future things will be a little different about deer management in this country. That happened in the spring of 1948. Well, I've talked about the PUD, and I've talked about Keokuk, and you know, the city of Wenatchee is going through a growth period too. I walked the riverfront with my son. There's a pretty bad bunch of shack towns down there. We're having a hard time getting anything. We still got a sewer that's dumping sewage directly into the river that ought to be taken care of. We got some things to do. We got a nice little town here, you know, it's compact. We got about 15,000 people, and all of our major stores are right here, Sears and Montgomery Ward and Miller's and McDougal Southwick are right downtown where we look after them. We've got a great hotel and a good tourist business. Of course, the hotel had to go through a bankruptcy. They're owned now with the plumbers that did the work at the hotel. But that's okay, they're doing fine. But we've got two good hotels, the Columbia and the Cascadian, and things are moving along all right. And we hope to have more development through roads across Stevens Pass needs development badly, and we're trying to get that done. So, all in all, we're trying to make this little town better, and we hope that we can do it. And I think that's 36 for all of you. Thank you for coming.